So I'm going to continue on with the theme of mothering. And the title of my talk, Mothering, Mother's Day, Mothers, the word comes up a lot in this talk. The title of my talk is Not Conditionality. So I found a phrase that I find both powerful and evocative. It's the mother is the first environment. And its roots lie in feminist theory and psychology. And it captures the idea that the mother, through her body, her presence, her care, forms the first environment that a child experiences, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, etc. So I was wondering, how does the phrase line up within Buddhist language, within Buddhist framework, philosophy? And the first teaching that came to my mind is conditionality, though that is often the first teaching that comes to my mind. We talk about it a lot. In Buddhism, conditionality refers to the understanding that every experience, thought, interaction, event comes about due to conditions, that certain conditions brought that forward, set it in motion, made it possible, and that nothing exists independently. So from this perspective, the mother is the first environment. It really points to a dominant condition of being born. So it's something that we can't get out of. And for me, I even was putting it into my provisional fourth mark of existence, that we needed a mother to be born. And we're dependent on her, as well as other caregivers who fulfilled that role of mothering for our survival. So psychology has studied these early attachments, these early dependencies in depth, and it shows how much we rely on and we need connection, responsiveness, emotional attunement in order to thrive. And when those early conditions are disrupted, through, let's say, a lack of stimulation or an absence or neglect, that our development is deeply affected and in lasting ways. So we're not in reflective meditation suggesting that these early patterns are something to transcend or to simply transcend them. That would not be conditionality. And just as we said yesterday, to treat everyone as if they were your mother, that too is not conditionality. It often glosses, both of those statements can gloss over the complex and mixed, kind of nuanced responses and relationships, responses to relationships that we've had. And they fall into absolute language, which bypass our direction of standing near your experience, getting closer to it, to understand it more, to see more conditions. And those standing near experience can often feel ordinary. We can feel the dukkha in it, but they're tender encounters that we have with others. And they're not less valuable than the lofty ideals that come with absolute language. So that's really what I'm trying to get at, is that if we try to get into a transcend over our conventional standing near experience, we often disregard it or devalue it. So returning here to the idea of a mother as a dominant early environment, she is quite literally our first home, right? Her nutrition, her hormones, her levels of stress, they shaped her body, our body, and we felt that variety of degrees in the womb. Her emotional presence or absence, in a very real sense, she's our first earth, and deserves that kind of respect as the earth does these days. So dominant conditions are not the only conditions that we're dealing with, but how do we deal with this dominant condition of mothering? And one way is by individuating. And The idea of individuating from the mother is seen more as a modern Western concept. You don't find this in the Buddhist language, but it is the chance for us to differentiate ourselves from others, especially caregivers that basically have a strong, like I said, a dominant position in the way we develop. But we differentiate with integrating a healthy sense of self. And that's important because it involves this kind of delicate balancing act between being independent but still connected. So while traditional Buddhist language cultures often emphasize interdependence, all connected, family duties, collective identity, I would say, based on my limited experience and study, that humans do need to differentiate from early conditioning, particularly the conditioning we associate with the mother, the caregiver. And I feel that that's likely universal, even if it's not described in those cultures. Might be a radical statement. I don't know. We can come back to that at some point. But recently I was reflecting on a decision that I made years ago to go along with one of my mom's ideas, one of her creative, very determined when she set her mind to something ideas. They were very hard to resist. And at that time, we were all grieving. My sister had recently died, and we were in a vulnerable state, myself, my mother, and my family. And I went along with one of her plans, even though I didn't want to. And at the time, I wasn't fully aware of what it would cost, how it would affect our relationship, how it would affect the relationships of others in my family. And looking back at it now, today, this 30 years later, I've reflected upon it a lot, but I see that my inability to differentiate, that lack of clarity of my own path, that really having the two legs to stand on, to say what I wanted, it led to consequences that I still regret and feel sad about in my relationship with my mother today. So I don't think I could have done it differently at that time. I don't feel a sense of blame. But now, being informed by, Buddhist teachings and modern psychology, I think this experience can help show how we approach practice in reflective meditation. We teach compassion with boundaries. We support people individuating and finding their own path, while staying connected to others. So I'm going to end with this, two phrases. So the Buddhist phrase, be a lamp unto yourselves, it seems deeply resonant to what I'm talking about. And I'm going to pair it with Donald Winnicott's. He's a British psychoanalyst, best known for his early theories on child development and the role of caregivers. And his phrase, we're separate but connected. Because as I see it, your lamp lights your own way, but others will see it too, because you don't live on this earth alone, even if it sometimes feels that way, because that's not conditionality. I'll end my Dharma talk here.